Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up, the Marshall Islands sees the return of Hilda Heine as its president. Also,
there's lots of bad blood between Rambuka and Seri Rondrondo.
A political expert weighs in on the mess surrounding Fiji's cabinet ministers. And later on,
I remember sitting there Christmas Day thinking, will they ever find them homes?
how a cat shelter in the Cook Islands is teaching people how to have empathy. Marshall Islands President Hilda Heine says infrastructure, outward migration and climate change are among some of the biggest challenges facing her new administration. President Heine was re-elected on 27th December last year for a second term as the nation's 10th president. She's one out of only two female leaders in the Pacific, alongside Samoa's Prime Minister Fiamena Naomi Mataafa, just two. Koroi Hawkins spoke with RNZ Pacific correspondent in the Marshall Islands, Giff Johnson, who witnessed the inauguration on Monday.
President Hilda Heine is the first president in the Marshall Islands to be a woman. And when she was first elected, her first term in office in 2016, she was the only head of state in the Pacific to be female. So she really set the pace there. Now, of course, there is another one, a Samoa prime minister. So there are two of them, but point being is, she's been a pace setter for the region and, of course, for the Marshall Islands. An interesting feature of the new parliament, which has elected her by a very slim margin, but nevertheless elected her, is that we have the most women ever in the parliament. It's only 4 out of 33, but that's double what we had in the last term, which was only 2. So, there seem to be more women getting in, and the fact that Hilda can get elected is a good sign. And she I think probably feels that she's got an unfinished agenda from her previous term in office, but also they are just beset with a myriad of challenges and problems, some of which she outlined in her inaugural speech in Majuro.
To come to that, obviously, inauguration, how was the ceremony? How was the spectacle?
Well, it was great, and lots of international visitors. We had presidents from Palau and the FSM here, representatives from many other countries, and maybe most significantly, we had the first White House dispatched delegation for an inauguration. In my experience here, there's never been a presidentially dispatched group to attend an inauguration here. Like it would be the ambassador who's on hand. But in this case, Joe Biden sent a 4-person team, 3 of whom coming from Washington. And in addition, we have American Samoa Representative Amata Rarotonga came in just to attend. So lots of heavyweight folks like that in town to join in. And then the president, of course, they swore everybody in and did all the things they needed to do. And then President Hilda delivered a very, I would call it a quite significant address to the country, to the inauguration, but also because it's live streamed and on the government radio to the country and the world, in which she quite bluntly outlined a very significant list of challenges that face the country. And she said, the top thing in her estimation is infrastructure. And right now we're in a situation where the power supply in the capital is just collapsing.
On the regional front, what does a leader of her caliber coming back into the mix bring?
Well, I think she's chaired the USP Council, and she's got I always get corrected when I say she has a PhD. She has an EDD, right? Because she's an educator. But the point is, she's very much engaged in education in the region. When she was president last time, she was very engaged in Pacific Islands Forum activities. I remember, in Tuvalu, she was there with then Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, Dom Meg Taylor, the then Secretary General. And, that was a nice little grouping of women at the forum, right? So I think, Hilda is certainly one who, looks for pushing the regional agenda. And I mean, these are issues of huge importance back home, whether, things like climate change, and I mean, particularly climate now is so high on everybody's agenda. But things like fisheries and gender equality, she's very much on it, and I think we will all see her play a significant role in the regional platforms.
A politics professor says women in parliament are unfairly targeted compared to their male counterparts. This is in reaction to allegations against two Fiji cabinet ministers caught up in a sex and drug scandal. Earlier in the week on the show, we had Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister, Biman Prasad, speaking with Elisha Foon, who asked him about the allegations regarding the two MPs. Women's Minister Linda Tambuya is in the spotlight for an alleged affair with sacked Education Minister Aseri Ranjojo during their official travel last year. Mr. Ranjojo was dismissed from the education portfolio last Friday by Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka concerning a separate issue. But now an inquiry will be carried out by Mr. Rabuka's People's Alliance Party into Ms. Tambuya's conduct as a result of those allegations. Elisha Foon spoke with Professor John Frankel of Victoria University in Wellington to get his take on Fiji's political saga.
The events with Aseri Randrandra, the former education minister, who's a member of the small party SODELPA, that's the third party in the coalition. These events have been going on a long time, particularly since the election of December 2022, when the outcome should have been 29 votes for the governing coalition as against 26 for Fiji First. But there was one MP that voted with the other side, and it's widely suspected that was Aseri Randrandra. Nevertheless, he was brought into government. There's been continual disagreements between him and the Prime Minister. There was an attempted reshuffle in October trying to get Mr. Randrandra out of the Education Ministry, but that was badly mishandled. But I think the Prime Minister has wanted to do something about this ever since and has now got round to doing it. And what's not been reported in the media properly is that Rabuka would not have done this without some kind of liaising with the leader of SODELPA, Viliami Gavoka. We already saw back in October, at the time of the attempted reshuffle, that he needed to keep those communications very tight. It'd be foolish not to do that. And Rabuka is not a fool. He's a very astute politician. So I think that's not being reported properly in the media.
Let's add some more clarity then. With these serious allegations, could there be a deeper story, some more allegations of misconduct? Does Rabuka know more than he's letting on? And why hasn't he, fronted media, talked about these directly?
Well, there's lots of bad blood between Rabuka and Aseri Randrandra. Aseri Randrandra was married to Rabuka's daughter. There was some nasty incidences of abuse in that relationship. It's a long time ago now. People have forgiven him, but there's certainly a lot of bad blood between them. I think the sacking there has to do with insubordination and refusing to do what the Prime Minister asked in relation to the Fiji National University Board rather than anything else. You say serious allegations that I suppose insubordination is serious. In his press conference yesterday said that it was illegal for a minister to be sacked unless they'd broken the law. But this is not true. It is with the Prime Minister's prerogative to sack any minister if the minister is not doing their job properly. I do think moving forward, the Prime Minister and the political parties in government are going to have to get used to operating in a context where they need to make use of the party machinery to discipline members from time to time. After all, if a member is expelled from a party, the next person on the list comes into Parliament. So it's there are adjustments that can certainly be made, and the former governing Fiji First Party did make those adjustments.
A formal complaint laid against Fiji's Minister for Women, Linda Tabuya, which could see her dismissed. Now, what do you make of this?
I think that there are all these sex scandals about her relationship with Aseri Randrondro in Melbourne. I think those kind of things are best kept out of the media. They're private business between Linda Tabuya and Mr. Randrondro. I think we should concentrate rather on her competence and efficiency as a minister in terms of her actual area of responsibility. I think it's disgraceful that some people have been putting up these images that got from someone's text messages on a mobile phone, putting these images up on media. I think that the privacy of these people should be respected. If there has been illegal activity committed, then that's to benefit legal authorities. It's not something to be paraded. These allegations shouldn't be paraded in the media in this kind of way. I think there are far more serious and important issues that Fiji needs to concentrate on about the actual management of government rather than these private matters.
Could we see Linda Tabuya being dismissed as well? And is it a coincidence that these two ministers who have been, I guess, named as part of this allegations around, sex and drugs, will we see her dismissed, do you think?
Well, I don't think, Linda Tabuya is an extraordinary new, talented politician who came in for the first time in, I think, 2018, as a member of SADELPA. She was attacked straight away by conservative SADELPA MPs, saying that she didn't have the right dress sense. Another up-and-coming woman, MP Giratambua, has also been criticised, fat-shamed in a ridiculous way by people on social media. I think these are the stars of Fiji politics, and they should be given a chance. And if they're criticised, they should be criticised for the performance of their ministerial duties, not for all these other things. There are lots of people wanting to carp and attack these new generation politicians, whereas actually it's a breath of fresh air for Fiji that they're there.
I spoke with Deputy Prime Minister Biman Prasad earlier this week, and he was adamant the coalition government was strong. Is this a strong coalition?
I mean, it's a strong coalition, but they've had to make a lot of concessions to SADELPA to keep them on board, and that's been a problem. I think the Viliami Gavuka, the leader of SADELPA, gave a statement just earlier today, I think, making clear that SADELPA continue to support the Rambuka-led coalition. I think it's excellent that Fiji at last has a government that's not a military-backed government, but is nonetheless a coalition between a major Fiji Indian-backed party and a major ethnic Fijian-backed party. I think that's to be celebrated.
What can we expect in the coming days and weeks? What are some of your predictions?
I think that these scandals will probably continue. SADELPA may have to deal with Aseri Randrondro themselves. They may need to consider bringing in the next person on the list, who would be Rarotonga Mukapa. And indeed, Rarotonga Mukapa would be an excellent appointment as Minister of Education, given that she's held that job and carried it out very efficiently before under the pre-coup government. I think there are going to be some major issues about the appointment of the Chief Justice, who's only in an acting role at the moment. There are some controversies there. I think something needs to be done about the existing Attorney General, who Rambuka clearly wanted to reshuffle last October, but that was a real mess up. I think that Siromi Taranga's skills might better be used in a different ministry. Under the 2013 Constitution, the Attorney General's position is extremely powerful. It was a shame that Viliami Vosaranga, who was in October earmarked for that job, had these offences recorded against him by the Judicial Services Commission, because he would have been great in that post. But he could still become Minister of Justice, and someone else could be brought into the Attorney General role. Those are some of the things I think they're going to have to consider over the months ahead. The economy is always critical. Tourism has rebounded strongly, but the sugar industry is still in a bad state. There are still a lot of fiscal difficulties hanging over the government from the COVID period. These things are going to be big issues over the months ahead.
A charity in Rarotonga is teaching empathy for animals to young Cook Islanders, one kitten at a time. The Paws and Claws Cat Sanctuary started up a Cuddles and Hugs Day on Sundays to encourage the community to learn more about cats and how to properly care for them. Tiana Haxton visited the charity, which has been up and running since August 2023.
Cuddles and Hugs Day is a popular afternoon outing for locals and tourists alike. It is the newest community outreach initiative for the charity, which has led to them receiving funding to construct an interactive learning centre to further connect with the community. The sanctuary manager, Shannon Paul, is ecstatic and says she looks forward to facilitating programs for school students, encouraging a hands-on learning approach.
We were given funding from the High Commissioner, so we'll be inviting schools down once that's built and letting the young ones handle the kittens and see what the cats are about and learn a little bit of empathy that will roll on into their later lives, so that was good.
Paul says the practical education is necessary as young ones in the Cook Islands have a different view of pets compared to adults.
Children here don't think a kitten is as a pet like we do. There's a difference here. Their pet is usually a wild cat that they feed on the back doorstep. It doesn't have a name even, you know.
Stray cats roaming from house to house are a common sight in Rarotonga. The sanctuary are raising awareness on the need for neutering pets, and this will be an aspect taught in their educational programs.
I am so happy that we got that funding, because I think with education will come an understanding about the desexing and why it's necessary to keep the cat numbers down and things like that. Yeah, we're excited about that.
The sanctuary hosted 4 free desexing clinics in 2023 in association with the Aremanu Vet Clinic, in a movement to reduce the number of unwanted kittens born each year. Last Christmas, Paul found herself caring for close to 100 abandoned kittens.
I remember sitting there Christmas Day thinking, will they ever find them homes?
And she did. Once the kittens were old enough, they were spayed and the sanctuary managed to adopt them all out. 67 kittens were in the sanctuary these holidays, and Paul hopes to find their forever home soon. She dreams of the day when the sanctuary will no longer be needed and unwanted pets will be a thing of the past. Their goal is to see over 80% of Rarotonga felines desexed in the next 5 years so the facility can offer other services.
Hopefully, when we educate everybody about desexing, we won't have as many kittens in there and we can build more spaces to board cats and kittens in there. Yeah, we'll get there.
Extension work to the sanctuary is currently underway and the construction of the interactive learning hub is set to begin in the next 2 months.
That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnzi.com/programs. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio podcasts. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whāsoi fua.